Well, you can't say I didn't try. You can't say that after the horrible, stupendous, terrible season 3 that Titans had, I decided to give it another chance. I decided to see what will season 4 have in store. What will they do hopefully different in this season to do better? Well, first things first, they decide to leave Gotham. And I said to myself, thank God, because I feel like we have been chained and shackled to Gotham. And not just necessarily that, because I do think you can have a multiple season show set in Gotham and still be good, even though the show Gotham, in my opinion, did not do that well. But I have been begging and dying and asking for a Batman show, so obviously that would be in Gotham. I just feel like not having certain characters available, like Batman or Joker or whatever you want to say who is important to the city of Gotham, let's just take these characters out. Let's bring them to a new environment, a new setting, make this show feel new. And so they go to Metropolis. And I said, all right, cool. You know what? I welcomed this change. I was totally down to see why this would happen. And the explanation is that Superboy wants to meet his father, Superman, which is always weird when he says father, because technically Superboy is just a clone mixed from the DNA of Superman and Lex Luthor. So he has two fathers, if you want to use the term fathers. But I was wondering, I said, all right, how are we going to address Superman? Are we actually going to have a Superman actor cast on the show and he would drop in and have a conversation with Superboy? That would have been cool. When they first arrived there, you see this big statue that kind of reminded me of the Man of Steel, Zack Snyder, Batman vs. Superman statue that was there. But no, Superman had to leave the planet. He's not on Earth, and who knows when he'll be back. And honestly, that's the better way to go. I know that I've complained in the past, but when they decided to bring in Bruce Wayne, when they decided to kind of sort of not really have Joker kill Jason Todd, the way how they handled it, I know it's not their fault. I know that they have an edict, a rule from DC and Warner Brothers that they can't really use these characters the way they should be used. But I've always said, well, if that's your handcuff, if that's the case, then don't bother. Don't even use them. And so at least they came up with an excuse. If you want to argue whether the excuse was good or not, we can do that, but that's not what I care about. Not having Superman present, having a world, almost a universe problem for him to leave into space and deal with, makes total sense. And I would rather that than anything else. And so with Superman's absence, who does Superboy decide to come into contact with instead? His other father, Lex Luthor. So we get introduced to Lex Luthor. This Lex Luthor is played by Titus Welliver. And I've seen this actor in 100 things. I mean, I'm sure you've recognized him too. If you Google him and actually see him with hair, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Instantly, I liked him. Instantly, I liked him as Lex Luthor. I'm going to go down and say that he's the second best live-action Lex Luthor we've ever had. Gene Hackman fans might be pissed at me for that. I've never really been the biggest Gene Hackman fan, and I think everyone else. Kevin Spacey had moments, but still, he was too goofy. Jesse Eisenberg is at the bottom of the list. Michael Rosenbaum's still number one. But this guy, I loved how he was played up to where he just wasn't impressed. He wasn't bothered. He wasn't afraid or anything when he was in close contact with any of the superheroes, especially because it's not like he's acting like this with Batman. It's not like he's acting like this with Superman. And you could argue that he's been around for so long that he's already dealt with those type of characters. So because the Titans are the lower level, let's be honest, because the Titans are the kids, there's no reason for him to feel threatened. There's no reason for him to think like, oh man, this is going to be it for me. For multiple reasons, but also because we find out that he is dying. He has a disease. Okay, this is a great introduction to him, and we'll see where he goes next. So then, of course, he dies. What the fuck? This is how Titans fuck things up. And I've also in the past have said that DC especially uses the same characters, the same villains. We've seen Lex 100 times. This is true. We've seen the Joker a bunch of times. You get to a point where, yes, they're some of the best, but how many times can we do them? Let's give some of the other villains, some of the other characters some shine. Let's see what some of the other characters can do. And all of that's true. But my problem is that Lex is too big of a character to kill off on episode 1. I know that it's a shock. I know they were going for that shock factor. But I don't think killing off a character like Lex is worth the loss. I don't. And even if it's not like he had to be the main villain if you wanted to bring somebody else in, they could have just had it to where Lex is deeply injured in a coma or in a hospital for the rest of the season, so that at least you have the means to later on bring Lex back. And it also doesn't help that when we get to the main villain, when we get to the person that was responsible for Lex's death, when we get to the person that was responsible for everything going on, the real main villain, I was super underwhelmed. I was unimpressed. I did not think that this villain was better. Superboy gets arrested because they think that he was involved with Lex's death because he was in the room with him, talking to him when Lex just all of a sudden collapsed, spit out blood, and a fucking snake came out of his goddamn mouth. What the fuck? A horrible CGI snake, mind you. And Superboy being arrested, I thought that it was because, well, he's a very powerful character. It's almost like whenever you have Superman involved in anything, Justice League, or just in general, people think Superman is too strong, it's too powerful. It's very hard to incapacitate these characters to make everything else, the threat, not seem like they can easily take care of it. So I thought, okay, maybe Superboy will be out of commission for a few episodes. Maybe half the season. He'll be in this kryptonite jail. And then, no, he's out of it by episode 2. So, well, there you go. No real reason for that, I guess. So it's this magic witch character. It's this woman who we saw earlier was working with Lex in order to find this thing that Lex was looking for, something that he thinks could cure him. And then Lex fired her. And I guess Lex didn't realize that she was the real mastermind of this cult. There's this underground cult of people who come together, and she somehow puts curses on them and puts these snakes inside of them when she wants to kill them. And I really don't get it. I don't care to get it. I always think, and until I'm proven wrong, I will continue to think this. When DC brings in magic to their shows, everything falls apart. Even Smallville, and I love Smallville. I grew up on Smallville. Season 4, ironically enough, of Smallville introduced magic, where Lana Lang found out that she was like a descendant of some magic witch, or she got possessed by a magic witch, and she was just going around doing magic. It was kind of weird. Arrow, season 4, again, ironically, Arrow season 4 introduced Damien Dark, and he did magic. I know their Arrowverse universe was growing, and you had big high concept other shows connected like Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, but I still thought that magic Damien Dark character should have been on one of the other shows, not Arrow. This show as well, technically characters in the Titans group, yes, they do have powers, they do deal with it. Raven especially, you see how much of this cult stuff has to do with her and her father from season 1. So sure, technically it's all there. It just always struck me as odd that this show tries to be more grounded, tries to be in this tone where they're trying to be more realistic, or they're trying to be edgy and cool, but yet we get this magic stuff that just always comes across as silly. And I think maybe the show needs to be more fun or more silly to balance that. I don't know, on a show where they say fuck Batman. I know that was a while ago, but still, that was my first impressions of this. On a show like that, to all of a sudden now be where we are, where we have a lady doing magic curse spells on people and killing Lex Luthor with a fucking giant snake, it rubs me the wrong way. I never fully got invested in this magic story, especially because the one side plot that I thought would be bigger, you had this nightmare guy with a hood who had like a bone-shaped skeleton mask, and it reminded me of Freddy Krueger, where he was somehow getting into people's subconscious, or I don't know if he was just putting people into dreams, how he, like that little girl he put in a dream state and was sort of keeping her mind prisoner. He killed her parents. It seemed like he was viciously killing the females and then taking the males and slowly draining their blood. It was warped, it was dark, and I was at least intrigued as to where they would go. And then by episode 2, they defeat him. They pull off his mask, and he's just this random dude. He's a random doctor that was with Lex Luthor. And so he was just a random guy. It wasn't even a big build-up. It wasn't even this big character. It was just a dude that we saw in one quick flash of a scene earlier, and he's connected to the witch. And I just thought, well, what the fuck? What was the point of any of this? I know he was draining the blood now because the witch needed it, but that could have been way better. That could have been played up better. Why was it revealed as this guy that we didn't know, but that was supposed to be shocking? I thought that it was going to be revealed that maybe there's multiple of these guys, and that was just one, so that's why it's underwhelming. I tried to give it credit. I tried to make an excuse for why the reveal of this nightmare dude was so underwhelming. I said, well, maybe there's going to be more to this. No, no, he was just a minion. I honestly thought this nightmare hood guy was scarier than the witch until they ruined it. And so their first encounter with this witch, they're on the road, and they get demolished. They get decimated. They get destroyed by this witch. And I get having to set up the witch, the villain, as a big threat, someone that the team is not going to be easily able to deal with. I do. I understand that. I thought this just made them all look really weak. Maybe if she could have planned it to where she picked them off separately or one by one, they all came after her at once and she still kicked their ass. I just don't think that's a smart way to portray your Titans group, that all of them together got their ass kicked. There was a better way to maybe establish that she was a real threat or a badass, if that's what you want to get across. So because they got their ass kicked, and because the witch took the soul of Raven, her hair turns white. She said blonde, but it looked white to me. And I'm like, okay, so now Raven doesn't really care about things anymore. She's a lot more whatever about things. I don't know. I also thought more was going to come out of that. She just seemed to act more normal as the season went on. I almost like her better this way. Dick decides to, all right, we need to find somebody to help us figure out who this witch lady is. So I'm going to go to this prison and talk to Jinx, but because she is on the ground and is able to like touch the ground with her foot, she escapes. She breaks out. And I just thought to myself, why didn't Dick just go inside the prison to meet her? Why did they take her outside? Why did they take her through the gate? Why did they put her in a situation where she could break out so easily? And Dick was the only one that knew that she could do this? I mean, the police and cops didn't know that she could do that? How long has she been there? This is horrible. This is dumb. This makes everybody look dumb. This also makes Dick Grayson look dumb. I try to like Dick Grayson because I like the character so much and I like that he's the leader, but they don't write him smart at all. So he was dumb for doing this, and then he's able to figure out where Jinx is going because she's going to try to steal some thing, and so he knows where she is. Okay, fine, some stone. And when they get to her, the stone puts Corey into like a statue-like state. So again, making Dick look dumb because he just got Corey like in a statue, and they leave her there. They leave her goddamn body frozen there. And now Jinx just becomes a part of the group. Now, I like the actress that played Jinx, don't get me wrong. I thought she was really good. Even though she was a criminal and even though she was someone not to be trusted, I thought she brought personality to the group, much needed personality, much needed humor, some levity. And so I was like, all right, well, does it make sense that Dick really needs her? Does he really need her? Especially whenever he asks her questions about this witch, like, hey, do you know who she is? Do you know anything about her? Every time Jinx is like, no, I don't know her. I don't. I might have heard of her, but I don't really know anything myself. We need to go and like meet somebody else. It's like at that point, Dick should say, all right, you are no use to me. I'm going to go and meet whoever I need to meet and put you back in jail. But thankfully, Jinx stays around. This cult being connected to that is more important because we have a brand new character, Sebastian. And for a while, for like the first 3 episodes, they kept cutting back to this Sebastian character and him kind of being a loser or at the very least a loner and things not going well for him. And he has his sick mom who eventually ends up passing away, only to find out that the witch, at least, is Sebastian her son? That's kind of what they were implying, but also this witch character has been around for a long time, right? Like she doesn't age or maybe age is slow. I don't know. I'm really confused by this backstory. I guess he's her son, or at the very least, he's the next prophecy. Like Raven was originally supposed to be the prophecy that was going to bring hell on earth, but she rejected it. And so I don't know if they always had a contingency plan, if they always had a backup plan, or if it's just a case where, because they showed an episode backstory of the witch and they didn't want a boy, right? They wanted a girl and that was supposed to be Raven. And so maybe because the witch was the only one that believed her son would be also the reaper of hell, that she's the only one who's turning him into this dark figure that he's destined to be, but only destined in her mind because the rest of the cult didn't believe that he would be it. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of this, and maybe I missed some stuff, but I also don't find any of this that interesting. I don't. The acting's not horrible. I mean, the Sebastian actor is pretty decent, but getting to the point where the group takes Sebastian and they said that, hey, we're going to protect you. We're going to keep you isolated. Somehow the witch is still able to get into their facility. How? I don't know. This place was supposed to be on lockdown, but she's able to get her spell snake through their pipelines, and the snake ends up possessing Superboy. And Superboy gets possessed and starts acting like a dick. And I said to myself, all right, this is annoying, because how many times have we had a character on the Titans group get possessed or get changed and turn evil or turn against them? We've seen this time and time again, and now it's just Superboy's turn. But okay, fine. They're able to save him, and he's able to survive the snake thing because of who he is, right? He's Superboy. He's half Kryptonian. He's not a normal person. So he survives it. Cool. And then he just randomly wakes up and shaves his head. Superboy shaves his head and decides to start acting more like Lex Luthor. Now, I know I said earlier that he's the product of a clone experiment. He's artificially created. He's the mix and blend of DNA. I just find it weird that he's been acting more like Superman, more like Clark Kent this whole time. But because of this experience, he now starts tapping into the Lex DNA in him. It was too much of a 180. It was too quick of a change. I'm still trying to make sense of, like, I know that the Lex DNA exists in him, but this experience, just triggered it, unlocked it? So all of those years of growing up and being the way that he was before is gone or non-existent? Or does he have split personality? It would have made more sense if they kept Lex alive. There's an idea. If they kept Lex alive and Superboy Connor actually had time spent with Lex, actually spent even a few weeks, a few months, just a good amount of time with him to where he understood Lex more. He understood his point of view. He's now adapting his way of thinking. He's now adapting, or he's agreeing with those philosophies. But no, it's a switch, it's a random switch, and now he's just an asshole. Okay, cool. I forgot to mention that Tim Drake, remember Tim Drake? He was introduced last season. He's been here. He's been around. He's kind of slowly becoming a new Robin. I like that they're not rushing it. I will give them credit that it's not like he's already wearing a costume and already a badass. He's going to have to work towards that. So that's a plus. And I do like the actor that plays Tim Drake. He now gets a boyfriend. He gets a love interest. This guy that worked at Star Labs that they met. And I don't really care about this. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I don't like it just because it's a gay romance. Like, I don't care at all. Once they introduced that Tim Drake was gay, it made sense that eventually he would have a male love interest. I'm not opposed to that. I just don't have any attachment to it. It's kind of there. It's just kind of happening. I know there will probably be more people who hate it and are angry about it for other reasons. And I just want to make it clear that's not where I'm coming from. Beast Boy has this issue all season where he can't control his powers. Although I feel like Beast Boy's always not been able to control his powers, right? He's always had issues. He's always sort of been out of control. But here it's turned up. Here it's like there's a scene where he supposedly turns into a gorilla, but we don't see it. And then by the end of these 6 episodes, when we finally do see him become a gorilla because he goes to the witch's hideout to cause mayhem and wreck some shit, the CGI looks horrible. The CGI gorilla looks like fucking shit. And it makes me think, oh boy, you know what? I regret wanting to know what it looked like. I don't want to see this. Bad idea. The CGI is so bad. Jesus. And then during the end battle of episode 6, Jinx gets killed, I think. I mean, who knows? Because Donna Troy was killed at the end of season 2 and then came back. So I'm sure it's not out of the realm of possibility for Jinx to come back. You do have to get to a point where eventually you're going to have to start killing people and keeping them dead. Speaking of death and people coming back, I should have mentioned earlier, there was a episode where they went to this asylum and there was a bunch of zombie dead characters walking around that the Titans had to go after. This is when they first grabbed Sebastian and they were trying to protect him and trying to make it out of this asylum alive. And then we got a zombie Deathstroke. That was fucking wild. I don't know if I like that, because logically I was trying to make sense of like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I get that the witch, I guess, cast a spell to bring them all to life, I think, because she was also controlling them and she was trying to use them to grab Sebastian. But seeing a zombie Deathstroke back and shooting his guns and fighting them, like, it was kind of cool, but also weird. So there you go. Also, Corey has 1,000 visions at that diner, and she even had a moment where she could have killed Sebastian because she saw the future that Sebastian was going to side with the bad guys, but she chose not to be the killer that she was sent to Earth to be. And then, what do you know? Sebastian ends up joining the dark side and ends up going along with it. And so I kind of thought, I get, Corey didn't want to be this killer. But don't they kill people? Isn't there a bunch of instances where even Dick Grayson, like, they're all killing people, don't they? They don't have a no-kill rule, do they? I'm confused. Why is it so important to all of a sudden not kill this one person, but we can kill a bunch of other people? So, yeah, Sebastian, like I said, the very end of it, he drinks the blood and he joins his mom. And so he's going to bring hell on Earth, I guess. I mean, let's be real. Season 3, they killed almost the whole population of Gotham and then brought everybody back with the Lazarus Pit. So they'll do anything to undo this. It's not like I'm really in that much suspense. By the way, evil Superboy went there to try to kill the witch, and I thought he succeeded. It looked like he grabbed her and used his heat vision on her, which I thought was total badass, only to reveal it wasn't really her. It was like a fake out, and I don't know what happened to Superboy. Like, did she kill him? Did she take him out? I don't think we saw it. And then, after Sebastian drinks all of this, drinks the blood, everyone disappears. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like they all got dusted, like Thanos snaps, or did they just get relocated to a new area? I don't know. It purposely ended on the cliffhanger, like a mid-season cliffhanger, and I have to admit, so far, I think this sucks. So far, I am not invested. There are still actors and characters on the show that I like and I enjoy, and I just think that the DC universe is so rich with potential. That's why I keep coming back. That's why I was a glutton for punishment and why I stayed watching Gotham for 5 seasons, why I stayed watching the Arrowverse for as long as I goddamn did. It's because I like the DC universe. I want them to be better. I want better for them. I do. So guys, I know it's only the first half of the season, but let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the first 6 episodes of season 4? I was going to wait before I did a video on this, but I don't know when the back half episodes will come out, so it might be a while. So I just said, fuck it, I'll talk about it now. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.